Hi folks, you're very welcome to this webinar. So hopefully you're in the right place. So this is a webinar from Queen's University, and what we're talking about here is the PG Cert in software development. So we do have chat going on in the background. So if you do have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to put them on the chat. It's just sitting probably on the right hand side of your screen there. So feel free to ask us any questions that you want. What we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the content of the course, some of the things that you need just to make sure that the course is the right course for you. Talk a wee bit more about the potential outcomes and progression routes for the course, and the timing of it, when it's going to happen, and the process of applying in the first place. A wee bit more about some of the students who have taken the course previously, and overall with the course that sisters with us, which is the MSc in Software Development. And we'll do that, and then we'll give you an opportunity then just to ask us questions on camera or otherwise, and we'll feel those things. So just to introduce myself, my name is Aidan McGowan, and also Neil Anderson is available. So I'm the Director of Postgraduate Courses for EECS, and Neil is the Course Director for the MSc in Software Development, but also for the PG Cert in Software Development. So just to give you a wee bit of the background of why we're doing this, first off, is that in order to gain access to the course, there are certain regulations in terms of how you've been affected socio-economically with COVID. So we'll talk about this as we go through. But the origin, just to give you a very brief history of this, in about April time last year, whenever we had the first lockdown and so many people were being made redundant and being made furloughed, there were quite a few industry bodies who came to us at Queen's and asked, would it be possible for you to try and help people who have been made redundant or made furloughed? And initially, that sort of big lockdown period where people were furloughed, to try and allow people to sort of keep themselves almost active. But then really, when we looked at it hard enough, it was really to allow people to reskill themselves in an industry that has such a big demand, and that being the software industry, and the software industry and NI in particular. And so we ran this course. It was the first one we ran at Queen's. It was the first one we ran, I think, anywhere in NI at all, really, at that time. And we got the course up going really quickly. And we had a huge number of applications. We only initially had 100 places. We ended up 150 places, but we had about 700 applicants for those places. So it was a big demand course. It ran really, really well. We ran it, and a big bunch of those people then went off to the MSc in Software Development. So that was the origin of the course. And then in retrospect, these were all funded by DEFI. The places are fully funded by DEFI, and that's again the case for the course here. What we intend to do then is have the course set up in such a way that there'll be a similar progression route for you, that if you get onto the course and you're successful, of course, then you can apply then for the second year of the MSc in Software Development. One thing that's happened over the recent times, obviously with the economic downturn, the one thing that hasn't shown a great downturn is the local industry for software. So it is going to continue to still to be very popular in terms of employment. And the one thing that hasn't really affected the software industry here in terms of working is that most of the companies went online and stayed online in terms of the working, and that's still the case for them. So in terms of the industry, as far as we can see, with no crystal ball, the industry has stayed relatively strong, and the working within the industry has stayed relatively strong, and that has been the case even come second lockdown here. That has been the case. So the intention is to future-proof your career. The sort of individuals who have been on the course before, and even with the MSc in Software Development, there's probably two types there. There are individuals who are coming from a completely non-computing background, and what this is doing is taking individuals who have degrees or otherwise something equivalent to a degree, and taking those individuals and giving them a sort of right from ground zero introduction to computing, and particularly with programming. And then if you go on further in the MSc Software Development, there are other very important foundational modules within computing, like databases and software engineering. And what that does is give you an opportunity to get into the software industry And we've been doing that for years overall with a software development course. And this is another mechanism to allow you to get in there. So that's one element of it, and that's one sort of category of individuals, of students who have went through the course. That's probably the predominant number of individuals who actually try and get onto the course and then complete the course, and they end up in the software industry. There's another group of individuals, probably a lesser number, who get onto the course and were particularly interested in the course for a reskilling within the industry that they're in. So it could be that you're in manufacturing or assembly, and what's happening is that programming in particular and computing and computer science is becoming more important for your job, and it's probably the way a lot of jobs are going in terms of having an understanding of programming. So we had a bunch of students who actually come in from that point of view. So it's a reskilling, maybe, and staying in the industry you're in, or a complete reskill and go off into a different, almost an upskill and get off into a completely different industry. So anyway, that's the gist of where the students who have been attracted to the course before. So hopefully that gives you an idea of where this is coming from. So we'll talk a wee bit about progression as we go along with this. What I'm going to ask Neil is going to tell you a wee bit more about the course itself, in terms of the delivery and what we expect in terms of your commitment. And again, this is running on very similar lines as to what ran before. First time we ran the course, we were fairly confident in knowing what we were doing because it's an online delivery. And our MSc in software development was sort of moving that way anyway, and certainly the part-time version of the course. But we put this whole PG Cert online, and it ran really successfully over the summer. So Neil will give you a bit more about information just about that, and then I'll come back and tell you a bit more about the entry criteria and things after that.
Okay, thanks very much, Aidan. So as Aidan says, I'm going to give you a bit of background about the course and about the delivery methods, and then talk to you a bit about the modules and how those modules could then be used, how you can make use of the learning material in those modules, either in your future career or maybe as part of the MSc in software development, which is the sort of progression route from this PG Cert. So to start off and talk a wee bit about the delivery. As Aidan says, we're an online delivery for this PG Cert, and actually we've been, probably over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been moving to a more and more online delivery in our day-to-day teaching. So this PG Cert is comprised of 2 modules, and I'm going to talk about those in a bit more detail on the next slide, but I'll leave that for a minute. But it's comprised of 2 modules that have been on the MSc in software development, for the last number of years. And I say what we've been doing steadily over the last 3 or 4 years is providing more and more online content. And online content actually comes a number of different ways in Queen's. We have the sort of online content that you would expect, where there's a lecture online at a preset time. And for the PG Cert, what we'll probably do is we'll probably run those as twilight sessions, so they'll probably start after work in the evenings. And that normally means that if you are still working during the day and you're using this as a part of a retraining, then the online sessions where you'll be able to interact with the lecturer and watch the lecturer actually working through problems or working through code or working through different parts of the course and being able to ask them questions as you go. That sort of interactive live sessions would normally take place in the evening. And we've been doing that anyway for our part-time course, and that's proved a really successful model, especially in the model that this course uses, which is around a 16-hour effort in a week. Now, that obviously doesn't mean that you're going to be sitting glued to an online live lecture for 16 hours a week, and we'd normally run those in sort of 2 and 2.5 hour sections, maybe 2 nights a week, something like that. But it also means that we will provide other content for you as well. So I've talked a bit about the live content, and that's where you can see the lecture, you can see the slides, or you can see the development environment live on the screen. And then you're able to interact with that by sending questions through a chat, or you can turn your microphone on and ask the lecturer a question directly. So we have that sort of mode of delivery, but as I say, that wouldn't take up the full 16 hours every week. What we've also been doing, as I say, we've been doing this for the last number of years on both the module that I teach and the module that Aidan teaches, is we've been providing sort of more and more video lectures and pre-recorded content. And that works really well because what we can do is it means that we can give you all of that content a week in advance. So typically on the likes of the part-time course, we've been providing the content on a Friday afternoon or a Friday evening. And then that means that that's the upcoming content for the next week is already there for you. It means that if you do get some time over the weekend and you want to have spent a couple of hours, maybe you've got a bit of quiet time to look and looking at the material that's going to come for the next week, then it's already sitting online for you. And that means that you can look at that content in advance. The big thing about pre-recorded content and the difference between it and the live content is that you can pause and you can rewind and you can go back and forth as you please. And that's especially useful whenever you're starting these courses, because the sort of students that we're expecting to come into this course, we're not expecting to have prior computing experience in terms of programming. So we obviously expect you to have seen a computer before, but we're not expecting you to be able to program a computer before. We're not expecting you to be able to write in a programming language. Okay, so whenever you first start to learn these languages, getting used to the sort of early parts of it, getting all the commas and the syntax and all of that sort of stuff in the right place, that can take a wee bit of time at the start. But having those pre-recorded resources available to you makes a huge difference, because it means that if you do want to go and look at something again, you're not having to stick your hand up in a lecture room and wait for the lecturer to go back and look at it again for you. You can just pause it, rewind it, and have another go at it. And we've been doing that for our lecture content, so for a lot of the sort of theoretical topics you're going to cover, but also we've been doing that more and more for our lab-based content. So those are the actual sections where you're learning to program and actually writing the code. And what the students have been telling us over the last couple of years, even before we ended up in the world of COVID, is that they find it really, really useful to be able to go back to that content again and rework it. And it means that they're not waiting in a physical room for somebody to come and answer a question for them. So it can be quite reassuring. What I should also say is that I've talked a wee bit about the live content, and the live content, while it is delivered at a certain time, so obviously there'll be a preset time in the evening for you to come in and watch that content. We use a system called Microsoft Stream, which is basically like a Microsoft version of YouTube. And what we do is we record all of our content as well. So those live sessions are all recorded, and then they will be available in their entirety on a streaming service for you that you'll be able to access through the Queen's virtual learning environment. So even if you do miss one of those sessions, there's no big deal, because you'll be able to get back to it and be able to look at it again. So those are the two sort of types of delivery that we have, and that's what covers that sort of 16 hours per week. Okay? And there's time that you're spending working by yourself, there's time that you'll be spending working alongside the lecturer. And then don't forget that because you have a chat window running, you'll have other students there as well. So you'll have other students, and one of the really lovely things that we start to see happening sort of a week into the course is that we see students helping each other and answering each other's questions while the live lectures are running. And that's a really nice learning environment to be in, because at that point you realise you're not on your own doing this, you're working with other people, and there are other students that are going through the same sort of the same process as you. So everyone feels like they're in the course together, and that's quite a nice feeling. So you can see on the slide, we've got a very rough timeline for the course. We're going to start in the middle of January 2021, and we'll run for around 10 or 12 weeks until about Easter time. And in that time, we'll be able to do all of the learning materials, and we'll also have the assessments as well. Aidan's going to talk about this in more detail later on, but I'll talk about it a wee bit now. The natural then progression from this is to what's called the MSc in software development. So the MSc in software development is basically the extension of this course. So this course is 2 modules, and then if you then successfully complete this, you can then move on to the software development MSc, which is modules like databases, software engineering, and web development. So I'm just going to move on and show you the next slide. Then these, in terms of the PG Cert, these are the two modules that you'll come up against. So the first one is programming. All of our modules in Queen's are done on what's called a credit basis. Okay, so here we've got programming, which is a 40 credit module, and computer foundation, which is a 20 credit module. And that basically means that the programming course is twice the effort in terms of time as the computer foundations course would be. Crucially, it means though that whenever you do complete the PG Cert, you would have the full programming module and the full computer foundations module that somebody who would be enrolled in the MSc in software development would have. And that means that there is a progression route where you can move straight from the PG Cert onto the MSc in software development and pick up the other modules. In total credit points, the PG Cert is worth a third of the software development course in total. So there'll be another 60 points to come in terms of top modules after this, and then there'll be a 60-point sort of dissertation or final year project that will happen at the end of that. But that's part of the MSc in software development. This course, which is the PG Cert, is what you can see on the screen, which is the 40 points in programming and the 20 points in computer foundations. The programming course is taught in Java, which is an object-oriented programming language, and that means that you're going to learn programming from scratch. Okay, so you're going to start with a completely blank screen, and the first program you'll be writing will be a program called Hello World, and really that's just a test that everything's working. You can actually access the programming language and the compiler, and then the lecturer will be taking you through all the different constructs and paradigms from building up really simple programs and doing that again and again and again until you have the confidence to do that. And then from there to building up larger programs with multiple classes and working in objects. And as I say, while it's taught in Java, the principles that you're learning there you're learning the principles of programming. And then that means that whenever you go into another programming language, or if you move into something like web development or JavaScript or React or any of these other programming languages or environments, all the principles that you're learning through programming will carry across into any other language you use after that point. So while you're learning Java in the course, actually the crucial part is what it says on screen. You're learning the basic principles of programming, and those can be used again and again and again. Computer Foundations is a really, really interesting module. It has such a breadth of material that it covers. So it's a foundation module alongside programming, which means that you're coming into it with no prior knowledge of how computer systems work, but it's taking you through so many different aspects. So when we talk about data storage and architecture, you're actually looking at how computers represent data, how computers store data, all the way back to binary and all that sort of stuff. Data structures and algorithms, we're looking at how we actually store data whenever we have complicated data structures like arrays and content lists and all that sort of stuff. And it is also giving you the basis that you need for the modules that would appear as part of the MSc in software development if you were to continue on afterwards. So the basis of software engineering, you can actually see how the software development lifecycle works, and software testing, which is incredibly important these days in commercial software development. So you're not only considering how you're building the software, but you're considering how you would build that in terms of a life cycle, and then the next stages, which are how you're going to get that software tested, how you're going to get that software validated, so that what the software you're writing can be relied upon in a commercial situation. All of the assessment for the course, for the PG Cert, is all online based. And basically what that means is you don't have to come into a building to do it. So we're not going to ask you to come into a computer lab in Queens and sit down and do an assessment there. We'll be able to send you assessments through our virtual learning environment. We'll be able to send you weekly quizzes as well, so that you can track your own progress and see how you're getting on. And then at the end of the course, for the programming module, you'll be given a final project, a programming project that you'll work on. And then you'll have a fixed amount of time to submit that project, and you'll send that back to us through Canvas, and then that will be marked. So I say, the delivery is online and flexible. Even the live sessions that we're delivering are recorded, and you can come back to those time and time again. And all our assessment is done online as well, so that there's no requirement for you to come into the building at any stage. But while you're working on the course, you can still contact us. You can contact us through email, of course, but you can also contact us through Microsoft Teams, which is the system that we use day and daily as our communication method. So you can contact us through there. It has a text chat facility, and we can also give you a video call or an audio call. So if there's something you need to go over, or you need to run a quick screen share with us and talk about something, we're available for you that way as well. So I'm happy to come back to any questions we have on this section, but perhaps Aidan would want to talk a wee bit about how you actually get onto the course.
Okay, thanks, Neil. So some of this is pretty straightforward. The application's closed then, you probably know this already, 12 noon on Sunday, the 22nd of November. Please do apply as quick as you can with that, so we have an idea of numbers coming through, because I say last time around we had 700 applications, so it's good for us to know up front what we're dealing with. There is an aptitude test associated with the course, and that's the same PG Cert and also MSc. So that is going to take place on between the 7th and 8th of December this year. Now, what I'm going to ask you is that you make yourself available for that. That's going to be done online. It lasts only about 15 or 20 minutes. We will give you more details about the aptitude test. I'm not going to talk more about the actual content of it. So when you apply, and if you're successful in getting through the first stage of the application, then we will give you an invite to the aptitude test. So it runs on both of those days. You can take it on any stage in those days. So that's going to allow you, it's going to open up something like midnight on the 7th, or turning into the 7th, and then I'll close at midnight on the 8th. So you'll have two 48-hour periods. You'll have a 48-hour period to do that, and you do that within your own time. Again, we need to do that really quickly, because we need a very quick turnaround so that we can then look at the scores of the aptitude test. So that up front, you need to be available for that. So if you're not going to be available for that stage, because we have such a quick turnaround here, and we do expect to get a huge number of applications, it's really important that you make yourself available on those 2 days. Anytime within those 2 days is going to be, you'll be able to do it. So the rules and regulations then for the actual entry requirements. Normally speaking, and again, this is very similar to the MSc, and these are the academic qualifications that we normally look for in the MSc, and we have a really high return on the MSc in terms of people who qualify with their full MSc on the basis of the qualifications that they come in for in the first place and the aptitude test. So if you pass the aptitude test and then normally have qualifications, then that would be something for the MSc. Of course, the PG Cert is likely to be in really high demand, so we'll probably have to apply stricter entry criteria in terms of selection. So at the minute we're saying a 2.2 is our barrier, is the level with it, and then obviously the aptitude test would be factored in there too. So one thing that is important, and there was a few questions coming through there, excluding a computer science or similar computing degree, and there was a question there that somebody had asked in relation to, for instance, electronics. Electronics has a big amount of programming in there, but it really depends. We'll judge it, case by case. Anything that's age, we'll look at individually. So I would encourage you to apply. It's not a guarantee you would definitely get an aptitude test, but we would definitely look at your application anyway, even if you think you have a lot of computing in there from a previous degree. But if you have a clear computer science degree, and you've been using it and it's been in this last number of years, then it's probably not worth your while, because this is obviously taking everything from scratch. So it's very important we understand that, or give you that guarantee that if you do get on the course, we're taking absolutely everything from scratch, and we're reaching out to people who maybe don't have that, haven't had the computing experience before. There's also a thing known as RPEL, which is recognition of prior experiential learning. So that could be something, if you look at the regulations, this is on the admission site for that. So have a look at that too. That could be someone that doesn't have a degree, but has maybe been working in computing for a number of years and would like to get qualified in that. So that would also be something we would seriously have a look at too. But again, this very much depends on the amount of applications that we have. And as I say, we do expect this to be pretty busy. The other element then of requirements is the socio-economic requirements. So basically, since COVID kicked in terms of furlough, etc. So the basics of that would be unemployment since the 1st of March. We will need evidence of that, so redundancy notice, recent welfare benefit. Again, admissions are going to handle this for us. So if you do upload some, make sure you're sure on what you're doing. So follow the regulations. They're going to be very clear on the site what you need to do. Plus, people who may have been furloughed or continue to be furloughed. I know the scheme has changed over the time, but that sort of equivalence. And then we even stress this out to inactive and or partner that's been furloughed or unemployed since or a result of COVID. And then also people who have been self-employed and their income has been affected by COVID, and then there's evidence required for that. So that sort of thing you're going to need to do in the application process. It's really clear on the application what you need to provide. If you're not sure, admissions are going to be able to field all this for us. So look at it, see what you've got, upload it. If you're not sure, just ask the question of admissions. They'll be able to guide you with that particular one. Neil had mentioned there really about the course in terms of the progression. Realistically, as I mentioned earlier, there's two different types of students who would be applicable or would do, would be the sort of focus of the intake that we've had previously. We have students who are from a completely non-computing background, and we have had every walk of life. You name it. We have had solicitors, we have had doctors, we have people in science, we have people in non-science, we have English literature graduates, people who have been working as dramatists and in drama. You name it, we have had it. And that's a good thing, because that sort of diversity is actually really important in terms of the software industry, because software industry at the minute in AI and beyond cannot get enough graduates. So this is another entry point for potentially people coming through with a degree in something else, but then using the ability that they've learned to get through that degree in the first place, and then applying that sort of self-learning, lifelong learning, applying that to a completely different domain, which would be computing. And that's really very attractive to software companies, because lots of times they get graduates and they are very computer orientated, and that's really their sole background. But having that diversity of having a different domain, doesn't matter what that is, as long as you have the computing qualification from a master's, you're really, really attractive to the software industry. So that's one element of the students who come in and where they would end up. The MSc, and we've mentioned that, and Neil's mentioned the MSc a few times. The MSc is probably the key point there. The PG Cert on its own, if you had a degree in something completely different, a non-related degree, and you had a PG Cert, you may find employment, but what we found was that the vast majority of students went on to complete the MSc, because that's not guaranteeing you employment, but it's putting yourself in a really, really strong position. So the PG Cert is obviously a funded place, and somebody had asked me about the cost there. So it's 2,300 for the part-time PG Cert year one, and year two is the same again, so 2,300. That's obviously self-funded. As I say, we had something like 3/4 of the students who entered the PG Cert in the summer who then went on to the MSc, and we'll guarantee you a place. The timing of that would be September, as Neil had mentioned. So this PG Cert would be finished, and the MSc second year is where the entry point then would be for people who have completed the PG Cert, and that would be September 2021, providing you've successfully completed the PG Cert. And obviously that's a self-funded thing. There's two ways in which you can actually complete the MSc then. You could come in second year, part-time, jump straight in there and complete the taught modules. So both years, first year and second year, and basically you're getting, as Neil has mentioned, you're basically getting the first year here. So you do the first year with PG Cert. The second year would obviously be with the MSc second year, but you could also speed that process up by doing the third year basically over the summer. So if you started in January 2021, as we're proposing for this PG Cert, you could spend, you could near enough be graduated by November the next year, some of the next year for the full MSc, and that would make you really employable, especially coming in with a different degree. The other element of the PG Cert, we have a number of students who were really using this just to upskill themselves within their own industry. So the feedback from those students, we have a number of people who were able to gain and future-proof their career, and that's the idea with it too. If you're in that sort of industry that's going to need more computing, more programming knowledge, then the PG Cert is a perfect place for you to be able to do that. And as Neil said, it's very much, there's 2/3 part of the course is really very much about programming. And there was a few questions there about, can I learn Python based on what I've done here? Well, Java is our main programming language, and Java is probably as good a programming language in terms of a taught programming language that there is out there. But it really doesn't matter. It's once you learn a particular language and you get good at it, you understand the constructs, and that constructs are very easily applied to other languages. So it's the same. It's other languages are just a flavor, right, really, of each other. They do things slightly differently, but knowing one allows you to jump very easily into another. So Java is a good programming language for that. So that's really where these things are coming from. Again, I'll answer a few questions here as we go through. What I would like to do is just play this for you here. So Orla, if she could play this for us. So this is a student voice. These are our current students, or students who have just finished. Really now, we're really only graduating them now. And this is what they found. And these are 3 students who came in from a very different walk of life. And are fairly representative of the way that the course runs and their sort of feedback on it, but also fairly representative of their sort of backgrounds with that too. So, Orla, if you wouldn't mind just if you're able to run that for us, thanks.
Hi, my name's Emma.
My name is Nicole.
My name is Paula, and I am a full-time student on the MSc Software Development course here at Queen's University in Belfast.
I graduated in 2011. I did my undergraduate degree in international politics.
Previously, I graduated with a degree in history and sociology back in 2016. So this is a completely different subject area for me.
I left school with no qualifications at all and worked in hospitality most of my life. I went travelling and was teaching in Indonesia for several years. I came back home and decided that I would educate myself, so I went back to school, did my A-levels and got a place on a law degree course at Queen's when I was 32.
I got into it and I heard about this course from previous people who had done it. There was great feedback on it, and decided that it was something completely new and something I wanted to get into.
I thought that it would be out of my reach because I didn't have a computing background.
Obviously it's something that I've never ever done before, like I never written a line of code.
However, as I looked into it further, I realised that it was for somebody like myself who didn't have a computing background and who was looking to get into an area that was very employable.
The speed of the course is great. You all start at the same level.
As soon as I came in, I felt very relaxed.
It's very easy for you to pick up everything that you're being taught, and even though it's challenging, it's very rewarding as well too, seeing yourself progress as the course moves along.
And there's always help and support from the teaching staff, so you're never struggling by yourself.
So much employment out there for this. We have graduate fairs several times a year.
Loads of IT companies come into the university and hold talks, so it's a good way of getting a feel for what it is that you want to do whenever you finish.
You get an idea of the different kind of areas that this course allows you to go into.
I'm looking forward to getting a job in the IT industry, and luckily in Belfast it's a thriving industry.
The course is very, very sought after, so I would really recommend it to anybody that is looking to get into an area where they'll be very employable.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a feel for the students that are on the course, and we're not overemphasizing and explaining it. This is really a course very much developed for industry, for students to be able to access the software industry, and we do genuinely take everything from scratch. So it is from ground zero up the way, and hopefully the students give you an idea from it too. Our students then tend to be readily and very quickly picked up in the software industry, and we've students all around the world. An awful big proportion, maybe 70% of them probably stay here, but the industry itself would allow you, if you're really interested in travel. We have students, and we keep a fairly really good alumni section with students, and the stories from people in New York, all over the place. It's been a real big success, and I think over this past number of years we've about 1,000 or so students, at least 1,000 or so students put through the course, and we have a really good return in terms of employability. You probably know that already. If you go Google search for jobs in NI, you'll probably find that just in general there's a huge amount of software jobs out there, and hopefully touch wood, fingers crossed, that'll continue to be the case COVID-wise and going forward. Okay, I think that's pretty much all we have for you there. If you have any other questions that you want, if we look just at the chat there, is there any other questions that you want to just throw in there? And we'll do our best to answer them. First question there, just that caught my eye. If you're not eligible, can you pay? Not for the PG certs, unfortunately. Ian, that route was explored before, and we're not looking to do that again this time. You could. What will be useful for you is that if you're eligible, and you're given an aptitude test, and you pass the aptitude test, then if you get on the course, fantastic. If you don't, then the aptitude test will stand for you in terms of the MSc software development year 1, and that will start in September. So you basically be holding on until September, but you'll be guaranteed a place in. Obviously, that'll be self-funded, but you will be guaranteed a place on it. But unfortunately, you can't pay for the PG cert. There are a few other questions looking at, people with HNCs. What I would suggest is that there's always, we look at every application. So I would encourage you to apply anyway. If you have a huge amount of computing experience in the background and computing qualifications, it may make you not eligible for the course. But anyway, apply anyway, and admissions will apply whatever rules are. So you have nothing to lose by just applying in the first place. No guarantee that you would get in. And again, a few other questions that come through there about the cost and things. Hopefully I've cleared that one for you. So it's $2,300 per year for the MSc part-time, and it's a 2-year course, but you can do the second part of that, which would be year 3. You can do that basically over the summer. So you could be finishing relatively quickly then with the course. Okay.
And of course, you don't have to do that. You don't have to progress onto the MSc if you don't want to. There's the option is there just to take the PG cert as it is.
Yeah, and the PG cert is a valid qualification, and it's something else that complements your qualifications and the things that you have. Certainly useful for probably people that are currently in employment and doing something with the qualification. It's the skills, and this is very much a skills-based course. It's not really a theory-based course. It's understanding the background theory through foundations, but an application, but it's very much the program is very much hands-on with it. Okay, folks. Unless you have any other questions through the chat there, hopefully that's been useful for you. I would, if this is something of interest to you, I would suggest that you get your application in quickly. As I say, and just remember those dates that we mentioned. Remember those dates that we mentioned there about the aptitude test, and any other questions that you have that we don't get an answer to straight away. Please feel free to fire them on to us if something comes to the mind after that. Can you apply full time and progress from the PG cert? Effectively you are doing that if you do the sped up version, because the full time starts in September. But the year 2 of the PG sort of the MSc starts also in September. So effectively, if you did that as an entry point, and then you did the summer, this 3rd year basically over the summer, that's effectively doing it as full time, Rebecca. Hopefully that helps. Your degrees from Brazil, teaching. Do I need anything else apart from the certificate? If you go through the admissions, they will give you. You need to upload all your qualifications, and if there's anything that they need to query, they'll get back to you pretty quickly with that, Rebecca. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the questions are, unless there's anything else, folks. Thanks very much for your time, and hopefully we'll see your applications coming in, and from that point onwards, we'll take it from there, and who knows, we might see you on the course at some stage in the near future. Okay, thank you very much, folks.
Thanks
See you
so much, guys.
See you. Bye.
Bye.